Welcome back to the online podcast. This is officially episode 21. Today I'm joined by a couple special guests. We have Braid, Black Rowing, and correct me if I'm wrong.
Black Rose Amplifying Inclusion and Diversity.
There we go.
Yeah.
Thank you. And reason why I say that, Braid, first of all, when I saw what it stood for, I was like, it's dope. But then I saw the acronym itself as Black Woman, Black Row. I said, man, that's dope. So we can go around and we'll give a little quick introduction. That'll be great.
Yeah, we're so excited to have this opportunity. So we're so grateful. Thank you so much for having us. I'm Amari Randall. I'm a rising senior at the University of Delaware. I'm studying civil engineering, so that has been really exciting, and I probably will be pursuing an MBA post grad.
My name is Joy. I am a rising senior at Clemson University. I'm a sociology major with a minor in criminal justice.
I'll go. My name is Baylor Henry. I'm a rising senior at Drexel University, but I just finished my rowing season. So I'm done with rowing, but I'm on the 5-year track, and I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia. And I'm studying marketing and minoring in graphic design.
Hi, I'm Olima Desarmes. I just graduated Syracuse University with a BS in psychology. And yeah,
Hi, my name is Khadija Evans. I'm a rising senior. I'm studying graphic design at the University of Iowa. And yeah.
First things first, before we dive deep into what braid means and kind of your guys' journey, in the Black community specifically, there's been a stereotype around us when it comes to the quote unquote extra sports, not necessarily the big three of basketball, baseball, and football. For you all, how was rowing introduced to each of you?
Yeah, I can go first. So I actually hadn't rowed, touched an oar, been in a boat before college. I was a competitive swimmer my whole life, but I started off undergrad at Clemson University, and so they had open tryouts for anybody. I saw the opportunity, and I was like, hey, they're looking for competitive and athletic girls. So I was like, hey, I think this is me. So I went ahead, I tried out, and that was the beginning of my journey. So this upcoming fall will mark the start of year 4 in the sport.
For me, I first got into rowing my freshman year of high school. I had a family friend who joined the team at her college, and I was like, oh, that kind of seems interesting. Maybe I should just give it a try. And so I did a learn to row with my high school club, and I just absolutely loved it. And I ended up just joining the team, and now this will be 8 years this year.
I also joined my freshman year of high school, but it started from one of my neighbors at the time. So I finished swimming. So I did swimming all of middle school, and I wanted to do a sport in high school, but I wasn't sure. I didn't want to do track, I didn't want to do volleyball. My dad really encouraged me to do basketball, but I didn't want to do that either. So he actually had a conversation with one of our neighbors, like randomly, and he just mentioned rowing because I was a swimmer previously, and he suggested that I try the Learn to Row camp at one of our programs in Atlanta, and I tried it, and I just stuck with it. So in total, it's been 8 years, but I'm retired now. So
and for me, I actually started learning about rowing my sophomore year of college. My sports before I competed in Olympic weightlifting and I did lacrosse and I would post a lot about it. And one of the coaches reached out to me, said I should walk on. I was like, no way, I don't know what this sport is. And then I really looked into it and I saw that it's such a sport about like discipline and hard work. So I walked on and no regrets. It was like one of the greatest opportunities I've had. Yeah.
It's a crazy transition, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I started to row back in high school in South Africa, and yeah, I wasn't much of a sports person before I started rowing. I was more of an art kid, and I still am. But yeah, I started like grade 8 and just really stuck with it. So yeah.
In the rowing realm and world, what are some trials you all, or if someone wants to touch on this, what are some trials you guys have faced, not only as Black rowers, but as Black women in the sport?
I can start us off with that one. I think that I feel like as you're in the sport more and immersed more and more in the sport, have some time to like actually get acquainted, you realize like how much of a disparity there is racially in the sport. Um, Going into tryouts, I think like my first day, it was definitely very noticeable walking in and being like, okay, I'm the only one. Like there's a lot of people, but none of them look like me for real. So that's a big thing. And we're like thinking about roster sizes nationwide. I think most of the teams have like between 60 and like 80 girls. So these are huge rosters with like maybe one or two, sometimes zero black girls. So the disparity is really significant. So I think as you like continue to just see that and experience it and live it, it's like, oh wow, like this is definitely different. And it can definitely pose a lot of trials and questioning and possibly even doubts.
I think even touching off of what Amari just said, it even goes into like the realms of like imposter syndrome. I think as athletes, we all experience that on that level, but then there's a lot of intersectionality when you're going into one of the least diverse sports where you're going to feel that on two accounts of, looking different and then, still having to perform as an athlete. And I think we all know sports are very mental orientated. So then when you have to deal with that side mentally and athletically, I think that is such a struggle that we experience differently than others.
Yeah, I would agree as well. I think questioning is definitely one of, I can recall even like from my experience, like questioning myself or doubts, or even I remember vividly, it was after a practice, and at the time, I didn't really fully understand what seat racing meant. This is rowing terminology, but basically it's to gauge how fast you are between different crews that are on the water. And I remember coming off the water just thinking like, dang, like maybe, and it was like probably not the best thing, maybe a low point, but just like maybe this is why there aren't, like, I don't see anyone that looks like me, because like I just didn't, I didn't have anyone to like as a role model or represent that there are fast girls that look like me. I was really the only one like supporting myself, so a lot of doubts and like fears if I could really be just as fast or faster than my peers. Um, and definitely some, like, I would say, confidence in yourself that you are just as capable and you can like shoot for the stars regarding like performance. So I remember that being one of my biggest hurdles.
Did you guys at all feel that there was an added pressure, not only from the sport, but now that you have now become the rare athlete in your sport, being the black woman, that now the bar has been set even higher for your success and what they consider success for you all?
Oh, definitely. I personally, for my experience in the sport, I always felt like I had to hold this standard to not fall into a stereotype of like you're going into environment, they already think you're not going to be this really good athlete because it's such a white dominated sport. So I felt like I had to prove that to myself, but also prove that to young black girls who are growing up and you're gonna see people at these races, but also just to like prove them wrong and prove those doubts wrong. I feel like there was always that added pressure, which no one should feel, no one should have that on them, but it just like comes, I think, with the quota of wanting to excel in sport to begin with.
I would agree with Alima, and just to like add on to that, I think also the pressures, like feeling like you're in the hot seat all the time and having to row perfectly, or like you, the biases as well, as far as, I mean, coaching, and just like if you don't meet a certain mark, then you'll probably be taken out, or if you don't hit a PR on a test piece, you're automatically like removed from the lineup, or just feeling like this added like additional pressure, which rowing is already mentally and physically like at its peak. So like having, like, I would say, like a backpack over your shoulders of like, oh, like if I don't do this, if I don't hit this like PR, or I don't know, for example, like, I don't know, like in high school we would have to lift like weights and stuff. Like if I don't lift a certain amount of weights, or if I'm not, getting the best time on like our weekly runs that we had, like it was just like, oh, like the mental stress of like, is this going to work out for me, because so and so doesn't really have to go through this, it's just an easy pass. But for myself, it's like I have to do 10 times the amount to just make it into one category. So
Just to
Oh, go ahead. My bad.
bounce off of that, no, I was just gonna say, like, I think it's the same principle and idea as like just Black women across the nation in any space. Like, we always feel there is an added pressure for us to perform Whether we're overqualified, like, and most of the time we are overqualified in the space, it's still like an expectation, or we're feeling like almost trying to combat the feeling of being replaceable, knowing that we bring a lot to the table, but still like working and grinding. And I think it's also in partnership and in combination with us having extremely high expectations for ourselves. So that like societal pressure and then our internal pressure is a lot.
Now, with you all dealing with that, I don't want to put words in your guys' mouth, but is that the root of how Braid was established?
So we I think it had kind of been like ideas or conversations that we had had, like smaller conversations in the past few years. But Joy and I, we're the co-founders, and so we had conversation mainly, or I think our brain dump and really getting it moving started after the election results of the 2024 election came out. And so realizing that, like, okay, the state of the nation is about to change. And I think it's really important that we have a space for ourselves. And that, in conjunction with hearing and talking to so many other brown girls in the sport and them facing racism from like microaggressions to like blatant, nasty encounters of it, we were like, no, I think it's time that we create this space. So it started as like just a FaceTime call with she and I, and we like brain dumped, and then we started refining it. We reached out to Baylor, and she has run the Black Girls Row Instagram for so long, which is a very successful platform. And then we also reached out to Olima. Olima and I had seen each other at a few races in the ACC like racing circuit. And then we kind of just went from there.
That's dope. Because when I first saw it, because running into oh, I forgot how to pronounce your name. That correct? How do you pronounce your first name?
Oh, I probably said Kari because that's my nickname.
Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry. I remember running into you in Chicago. I don't know if you remember, but I said, "Do you hoop?" And it threw me off because I was like, I've never seen black rowers like ever.
Yep.
And then now doing the research and finding the braid, I was like, oh, this is great because in football it's not as bad, even though we do see a lot of the similar issues. Yes, we have the representation, but even with the numbers, we still don't talk about the issues. It's kind of
Mm-hmm.
backwards, kind of polar opposite of what you guys are doing, where we kind of need that space. We're afraid to do it because of how deep we are. Now, I do want to
Yeah.
transition a little bit backwards. When you guys are coming up, not seeing too many girls that look like you in the sport. I know some of you guys started playing or rowing in high school or even sophomore year of college. What do you feel the impact is that you guys are trying to leave or you guys are currently leaving?
I feel like personally, the impact that we're leaving is like visibility and also community. Kind of like you said, like when I first started rowing in high school, like I feel like I didn't see a lot of people that looked like me or that was like on teams or like even going to like the national team as well. I feel like with Braid, we're kind of working to change that. And kind of the hope is that other girls feel like less alone or feel like less like they're the only or there's like not other people who understand what they're going through, and that they do belong in the sport just as much as anybody else. And then also beyond like representation, also like shifting the culture, and then like having conversations with coaches and with our teammates and stuff to make rowing more inclusive. But I feel like we're going in the right direction. I feel like it's a good impact that we've had on the sport as a whole.
For Black parents who may be nervous about their kids, either not necessarily rowing in general, but these outside sports, for you all in the rowing realm, what message would you give a parent who may be nervous or have doubts about putting their Black child in the sport?
Yeah, I think, you know, taking the bold step of like even joining a club is like, I think one of the best things that you can do because of the benefits that rowing does bring to your life. I do understand when it comes, and we all have had our own personal experiences with rowing, and also like the fear of, being the only one, or dealing with, racial biases, and having so many experiences that could really like take away like the beauty of what rowing brings. I think, at this stage right now, representation and diversity is growing. So I think just, taking that first step boldly because it's going to open opportunities truly. And I also think that when it comes to the nervousness and the fear behind it, I remember when I was in high school and like feeling the same way because my parents also had their experience, especially my mother. She had a lot of reservations, even, dealing with the parents, right? Like, so it's not even just like, dealing with your teammates, it's even their parents and like events and attending such things. So I think, she had to learn that, if I'm going to be successful, I'm going to have to grow in this space and like learn to be bold. And that takes time. Um, so yeah, I think don't let fear stop you because at the end of the day, you do belong there and you will, become successful through that. And it's just taking that big step. And I want to say like a leap of faith, but truly like it just takes like the first bold.
Even going off of what Baylor said really quick, it's rowing is such a good opportunity for even a college education. You could go to some really good schools, Ivy League schools, for even obtaining a, 730 to 722K score, which is obtainable with hard work. So I think seeing opportunity there to get, a full ride education at a really good university is just the opportunity to take that leap of faith and go for it and work hard at a sport.
Yeah, if I could just hop in on what Baylor was saying, like I remember when I first started out, my mom always pushed me to start with rowing and my dad as well, because my dad he also did like sports in college. And yeah, we my mom and I have had a lot of conversations on how like, you're because you're a black girl going into predominantly white sport, like there is going to be like an extra like what 10 pounds of pressure that are going to be put on you, but it shouldn't be something that discourages you. And then she tells me to look on like other amazing black female athletes in our days like Serena Williams and Sha'Carri Richardson, who probably went through the same thing just maybe in a different way, and just to like understand that look, people are going to look at you sideways, but just because they're looking at you that way doesn't mean you gotta look at yourself that way and let that stop you from succeeding. So
And a quick short answer, not short answer, short question, excuse me. What is the beauty of rowing?
I mean, there's nothing like getting into a boat, getting into a team boat, and knowing that the girl in front of you, the girl behind you, y'all are all bought into the same thing. Y'all are all moving simultaneously to reach that goal. And so it's just like a different level of unification. Like you see on the basketball court, you see on the field, like a team moving as a unit. But in rowing, you literally have to go together. Like you can't misstep because it's gonna throw off the rhythm of the entire boat. So it's you, seven other rowers and a coxswain, like all bought into the same thing, and like it gives me chills just for us to be on like one accord. So that's just so special.
Yeah, to touch on that too, sisterhood. I think the
Mhm.
relationships that you build, I mean, going as far as like braiding each other's hair or like talking about, different like colors that you want to wear for hats or like the race plan or like Amari said, like unification, like everyone being and having one goal, which is to win and just working hard. Like when you're around a team like that is willing to work hard, it's nothing like it. Like it's hard to find. I could say that like even now, like after like retiring, like just trying to recreate that. Like that's just like a pocket of life and a season where you get to experience that. And I think rowing is just the best way to form a deep sisterhood with your teammates, and you learn so much about yourself, but also being a good teammate as well. So it's such a great experience. But yeah.
Yeah, rowing is such a like rewarding sport, I would say. Like there's just nothing like crossing a finish line or like getting off the rowing machine after like a really hard test piece and just like knowing that you did it and knowing like all the hard work that you've been putting in every day like came to fruition. And even when you don't hit your goals, it's still like, okay, these things are still in sight and you know the steps that you need to take to reach those goals.
Per Going off of that too, I would say like discipline for me was the most rewarding part of the sport. You're waking up at 5 a.m., embarking on the hardest workout probably of your life. You're blacking out, you're throwing up during sets, then going right back to it. And it's all for like 0.1 second or 0.2 seconds to make a seat or to make a PR. And there's no feeling like it's a sport where you push yourself past what you think you're capable of, and that transfers to your real life. I think it shows like even like being graduated out of the sport when I'm working out in the gym, or a lot of us we transfer to like triathlon training and half marathons and stuff like that. It's like you start thinking the time will pass anyway. It doesn't make you lazy anymore. Like sometimes before the sport, you're like, I'll do that another day. But then you're like, if I can, some of our workouts, we're looking at a screen straight for 180 minutes, and you're looking at one number, and you're trying to, your heart rate's at like 180. So holding it that long, it's like you can do anything after that in your real life, you know? You can, drive to the store, do that workout. You can really do it. That teaches you that you can do anything you set your mind to, but it also teaches you that someone else's limitations, you can go beyond that. Because I even had coaches who were like, you're trying to go for a PR, and they're like, maybe that's not possible right now. And then you prove them wrong and you prove yourself right. So I think it teaches a lot of self-love too.
Man, I might need to hop in the boat. Y'all got me motivated.
You'd
Y'all
be a
got me.
good six seat.
You said what?
I said you would be a good six seat,
You
maybe
would be.
five.
Is that in the back?
No, that's like the middle, like the
That's in the
powerhouse.
front.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, I
the
gotta
engine
balance it out.
room.
I gotta balance it out. Okay. Okay.
No bow. No bow.
Um, for you all, what makes the braid community smile?
I would say exposure. I think that like that is the goal of Braid, not only to foster this community, foster this sisterhood, but to showcase that we are in this sport. We're doing what we're supposed to be doing. We're doing and excelling in this sport, and just like to have recognition of that, to gain the exposure, gain the traction, so that not only of course the girls that are in the sport can get their flowers as they deserve, but also so other young girls can be inspired and excited to join and take this step to embark on this journey, and see the rewards of it as well.
I was gonna say like unity. I feel like feeling like we're actually like unified with the other people in this sport. Um, and not just like we're like on the sidelines or like we're the onlys or kind of, like actually feeling like we belong in the sport.
I would say just like that individual impact for each person of like we all have gotten messages on like, just someone reaching out and just thanking what Braid has done for them. And being a part of something where it stops like the bad experiences happening in the sport. Because rowing is such a, there's been so many highlights, but what that comes, there's those stories of what can happen when sport doesn't really go your way. And the negative effects of, being one out of 60, there is going to be some bad apples and stuff like that, which will have effect. And I think making sure that no one feels unseen in the sport is kind of what makes me smile, and making sure that someone who loves the sport gets to continue in the sport, because I don't think anyone should leave a sport they love.
Yeah, and to add on to that as well, I think something that makes all of us smile, but also for Braid and like the people that follow us, is just knowing that these rowers and black rowers are valued and seen, and also we're like Amari said, excelling. Like there's a lot of good things happening, and it's inspiring. And I think to keep like the pipeline going for the future, there needs to be representation for that. So I think if anything, just keeping, the exposure high and, you know, creating the next generation of rowers just so we can continue on.
I think one other thing that has made us smile is meeting each other in person, because we've done a lot of like digital work and a lot of connections on Instagram, tagging each other, shouting each other out. But like there's nothing like, I think all of us have gotten the opportunity to like see or meet a braid girly at a race, and like that embrace and just like the initial, it's like almost we've known each other forever. Like we could have just known this girl from like one DM, but when we hug each other, it's like, no, I go way back with her. So that interaction is priceless.
Yeah, I think what y'all doing from a fan's perspective, a supporter, because I've met none of you guys really for the most part, and then just watch. Obviously, I don't row either. I don't swim. No, I don't do walk. But like what you guys are doing, I feel like is huge, not only for the sport and the community, but just as a whole. I think that's beautiful to see. I know you guys touched a lot on unity, but just seeing like you understand it's been pushed so much for us to be in the big three or certain sports, for you to break out of that and not only break out of that but excel and change the standard. I think that's beautiful. So I don't have a hat on, but I tip my hat to y'all.